$200 added to your betting bankroll, this is what you need to do. Use the link in the description of this video. FanDuel. Use their app, sign up and deposit $10 or more. That's all you got to do. And when you bet $5, you're going to get $200 in free bets guaranteed. When you bet that $5, it does not matter if you win or lose. It is a super quick and easy way to get a couple $100 added to the bankroll. What you do with that is up to you, but get that opportunity. Take advantage of it. Now, where are we going? I looked. There's not as much on the board today since it is round 4 and it's getting underway. I'm going to go right to the last pairing. You've got two guys at the top here. You've got Fitzy. You've got Wilsey. Both of them are looking to break through and win that major. Wilsey's been so close. Fitzy's been so close to winning on the PGA Tour. I'm going to take the head-to-head. I'm going to say that Matthew Fitzpatrick beats Wilsey today. Now, when you see this, first thing I want to get to on FanDuel, they have tie included. So we are technically giving a half of stroke here. That's why we get better odds than the traditional. Fitzy's like minus 125 head-to-head against Wilsey. We're getting him at plus 100, but we lose if they tie. So that's not ideal, but I'm still comfortable with Matthew Fitzpatrick in this spot. Now, first things first, I think Jon Rahm's going to win. That's neither here nor there. When we look at these two, Wilsey stormed yesterday. He had the round of the tournament. He was absolutely surgical, but when we dig into the numbers, I'm not saying it wasn't impressive, but his round 3, it was with the putter. He gained 3.23 strokes putting. That was first in the entire field. That is how he got it done yesterday, as opposed to Fitzy yesterday. He was first tee to green, 4.33. So Matthew Fitzpatrick is striking the hell out of the ball. He just can't convert putts at the same clip that Will Z could, particularly in the last 18 holes. But let's zoom out for the tournament. In the tournament so far, Matthew Fitzpatrick is again first tee to green. He's only gained a tenth of a stroke putting. That is somewhat atypical. Matthew Fitzpatrick is a very, very good putter. On the flip side, Will Z has been doing not all his damage with the putter. That would not be true. But he's done a lot of it with the putter. He's top 10.
I would have 100% been there. Us playing a member guest isn't fair. Like, we've got to go do that sometime.
Member guest.
That's the priority.
I'll fly you out for that, but your handicap is what, scratch?
Yeah, I'm a +2.
All right, so I'm plus 22.
That's fantastic. You do something, I'll do everything.
I love it. I love it. Welcome in. It's a Sunday. It's a Father's Day. For some, it's their first. For others, it's their 15th. Jordan taking off today producing because he's got to handle the Father's Day duty 4 or 5 times over. So he's chilling. Chris is in the house. Eric, that's who you hear. Of course, that's who you're here for. On top of that, and I'm Eytan. So the three of us with Chris now in the house will do some damage. And here you thought, Eric, that it was just Jordan had it with all of your shit and needed to take off this Sunday show for some mental therapy. But instead,
Jordan, life is so hard.
Day.
Oh, man. Happy Father's Day, everybody. A couple things to say right off the bat. Obviously, I'm not at home. I'm here hanging out with my father-in-law. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. But number 2, this is maybe the most important thing. This is a PSA for everybody out there. If you are not actually a father, but you are a dog dad, and you post Happy Father's Day or anything regarding yourself, or your significant other posts something about a dog, you're out of your goddamn mind. And this is coming from somebody who has a dog that I love very much, but they are not the same thing. And it is so frustrating to log on to every single day. And it's like, Happy Father's Day to the best dog dad around. What are you talking about? Shut up. Don't post it and delete it. Sorry, had to get that off my chest right
I'm surprised that of all of the different days, including 6 or 7 times over, there are 3 or 4 different days, right, on the same day. I'm surprised there isn't a pet owner appreciation day, just so you could take away the focus of that. Because look, I have been on the other side of it where I've been a dog dad forever. Now, I don't do what you did and chastise rightfully so people for doing. But now being on the other side of it, it's just not even a comparison. And I'm not saying no. I love dogs more than human beings. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying in the case of smelling, cleaning up, and all the other stuff, like literally crap that you no, it doesn't compare. All right. So let the real dad.
I can't imagine. And see, there you go. You're on board. You're on the initiative too. No dog dad posts today. No. Period. End of story.
And there's no other animal that's sneaking in here. You're not posting a picture of your baby alligator, trying to get around this thing, right?
Nope. It's just bad karma all the way around. And it's like, I'm pretty sure I have enough friends that are dads, and obviously just talking with my brothers who are dads, and the horrors and the things that I'm about to see in my life do not compare to the things I see day to day with my dog. So it's fair. Just, it felt like something important, maybe the most important thing you'll hear on this stream today.
You know what? I think this needs to be a weekly occurrence, God willing, so long as the two of us here, right, was continue to build this show here on the Sunday for baseball season. We need to open up with a Lindquist PSA, public service announcement.
I'm so here for that.
Right?
The Sunday PSA, I we'll come up with something like something.
Well, you lucky will, I don't want to know ahead of time.
Yeah, well, not only that, but you're on board with this one, and I like when you match my energy because you're an energetic person. It's like we just get excitable, like that's what we do. Sorry, that was not meant to be me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You were like freezing a little bit, so I was just sitting back, seeing if it was going to be a long or a short one, but it was fine. You bounced right back. All right, brother, let's look at this here. And overall, right, we've got these 8 games to look at. We'll take as many questions as we can as we get closer to the slate actually locking. But you always not only have a PSA now that we'll now build on and look for and anticipate each week, but you also have a strategy that we talk about before the slate here on Sunday, and especially because it's the weekend and maybe you can maneuver a little bit different depending on what have. You only have 8 games. So what's the general approach that kind of stuck out for you today?
Well, there's some hitters you want to be paying up for, and there's some pitching that you want to be paying up for, and you can't always do both. And so it's figuring out ways. Mike Minor, once again, is just an important talking point of this slate like he was last time around. Wasn't super high on him because there were other options on that slate, specifically him facing Arizona. He ended up being serviceable, and he worked with some of these expensive bats. But there's guys like Dayton Dunning in a phenomenal spot against Detroit, but there's ways to get away from some of these mid pieces by getting up to some better pitching. I'm hoping that I can find some value stacks here for you guys, because right now it's pretty obvious who I want to be getting to. I mean, the Yankees, everybody's going to Milwaukee. We got to find some other value pieces around them if we're going to pay up for pitching. So I think this slate is really one where you want to embrace some massive variance.
Yeah, and that means cost, right? As far as money management and trying to go at it a different way. It doesn't need to be the same approach across the board, especially if you're building a bunch. All right, so let's do that. Let's jump in. And again, we'll bounce around some questions that you have focused on the slate specific, but we'll begin in Baltimore here and Tampa, that 148 favorite. Looking at just a decent run projection, decent total here. Just also with what you mentioned with stacks, do the Rays now fall in as an opportunity to kind of pivot away from Milwaukee, from New York?
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, bullpen games are never the most advantageous thing to be going after, but if you're going to go after one, it might as well be against Baltimore with this Baumann character going to be in full relief. 4.91 ERA, only 8 strikeouts now on the entire season. He is not missing bats, 1.55 whip. I mean, Austin Voth isn't going to pitch more than an inning here in this spot. The hard thing about Tampa Bay, too, is I don't know if they're going to necessarily bring in guys like Yandy to pinch hit certain guys in certain spots. It's not the most intriguing spot. Yeah, I mean, Yandy in the 3-hole, G-Man Choi, I guess that makes me feel a little bit more secure that they won't pinch hit necessarily as they're going through with the bullpen guys coming in. But I think we could do a little bit better than finding Tampa Bay. I know that they have positive leverage and they have a decent enough stack score, but there's other offenses I prefer.
All right. So from a pitching standpoint, though, is you mentioned the bullpen and just trying to maneuver around that from a stack standpoint, but from an actual arm approach here, can you do anything at least on Tampa side? I mean, you are paying up that 8,100 range, at least for Kluber.
Yeah, against Baltimore. I mean, this is an offense I feel like I've been playing quite a bit of late. Obviously, they were a team that last week Sunday won a GPP for me, so I got some good juju going with them. I just don't completely love targeting Corey Kluber here. That shouldn't surprise anybody. This ballpark has been much more cavernous. Been playing Baltimore, I feel like, on the road quite a bit. They went up to Toronto, put up a ton of runs, went to Kansas City, put up a ton of runs, but they have pretty pronounced splits now, home road. This ballpark is just playing longer, harder. Some of the lefty power, obviously Cedric Mullins, if you got some shares of him, whatever, but that's about it. And, Rutschman, I think long-term is going to be a really good player at the catcher position, batting fifth. He's been a guy who's been batting some cleanup for them here of late as well, but I don't really see it against Kluber today. This entire game is just very unappealing to me compared to what I was expecting it to be this morning.
Well, look, and even on an 8-game slate, you don't have to, right? You're not really forced or ushered into getting here. So it sounds like overall, even if you are getting to some elements in this game, it's probably going to be low risk and even cap if it's just starting pitcher or stack.
Yeah, if you're going to one side, the Tampa Bay side sticks out in our tools quite a bit. Just in terms of the stack score, 5th best on the slate for DraftKings purposes. They've got positive leverage. I get it. It's just a lineup that I'm not super intrigued to be getting to. Mejia, 3,100 for DraftKings purposes at the catcher position really stands out. But Arozarena is 5,800. I have no idea where that comes from. You get Kevin Kiermaier leading off 3,100. I think that will be a guy people roster quite a bit. But I'm usually looking to get away from pieces like that when I know that they're going to by far be the most popular type one-up from their team. But I don't really know how I want to be targeting any kind of a bullpen spot here. Kiermaier, at least you get some speed. He's been stealing bases actually a little bit of late, but it's not going to be something that I really want to be doing.
All right, let's move on. San Fran, Pittsburgh, Alex Cobb on the mound. So this might be a little easier of an area to target by any means. Definitely catching. And unlike yesterday's slate, we talked a bunch about this over the weekend, depending on really how large of a slate this is. But there are only a couple of guys really at the bottom that nobody is getting to consistently on this DK slate. For the most part, it's pretty spread out, right, Eric, as far as even top 2 percentage, what we have, and then the ownership, a little bit less of it. We'll talk about Bassett, who's monster. But with Cobb popping up, there's a ton of leverage if you like him against that lowly Pirates team.
Yeah, there is, but what are we kind of expecting first start back? It's so tough. He hasn't pitched since May 29th. Going through some of his AAA Sacramento stuff, I thought that he was maybe going to get some kind of a start, but I guess, he just had a neck deal. He didn't even get one of those starts with the AAA, so I don't know what to make of it. He wasn't good starting off the season as it was. Basically put him on the 15-day IL and for a neck reason. That could just be your terrible reason. Yeah. And they didn't want to put him out there. He's 8,500. I think that would, if the price were cheaper, I think I'd maybe have some interest going there. But it's weird to say, but I like Pittsburgh in this spot. I'm going to embrace this team. I talked about getting to some value stacks to pair with some of this expensive pitching that's in some volatile spots, both Alcantara and Severino, guys that have massive top 2 pitcher percentages that are going underrepresented. And I want to play them. How do I play them? Well, I think targeting Pittsburgh is actually a thing I'll do today. Yeah, look, Cobb, you're not clearing out a bunch of ownership projected for him. So if it's on the other side of it, this really is just a matchup. It's not just in the small percentage chance that the field is wrong, like with Bassett, for example, getting over half of the percentage, at least for ownership. So to that point, I think you're right, where you would be targeting a lot of Cobb, and especially because Pittsburgh is so low owned, this is just kind of an ignored game overall. Yeah, it is. Pittsburgh's being completely ignored, and I get it. Well, San Fran, if we're looking at Alex Cobb. Sorry. I didn't mean to. Yeah. San Fran, we're definitely targeting Mitch Keller. Yeah, I'm just saying as far as getting with Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah. They're popular. Yeah, right. And they should be. They have the highest top stack percentage on the board. San Francisco, I just like this entire game quite a bit. So it's weird. Tampa Bay getting a lot of attention. I do strongly prefer San Francisco here. And, some of the same issues where you could get some pinch hitting spots for guys. Jock Peterson been batting cleanup, has been getting pinch hit for. Luis Gonzalez, Yastrzemski, I think are pretty safe because of defensively. They're going to constantly have them out in the outfield in any kind of a scenario. So I think you could get some Jock Peterson, but he's also the best hitter on this baseball team. So it doesn't really matter. Everything kind of comes out in the wash. His 653 expected slugging, 310 expected batting average, just ridiculous stuff. So looking at this ballpark, it's really hard for me to not like some of the lefty power.
Yeah, especially when you look at the matchup as well and how we have Keller so lowly projected. And you mentioned the other stacks. It's not even like there's that wide of a gap when it comes to price associated with these, if it's Milwaukee or not Milwaukee, sorry, if it's Atlanta or Tampa Bay, even the Yankees a little bit kind of in that similar price range. So between the matchup, the park going up against Keller, it is a little surprising that you're getting at the very least a positive leverage score for San Francisco today. I know it's an 8-game slate, but isn't that a little surprising that they're not even at like minus 0.5 or something like that?
Yeah, it is a little strange to me. I mean, you're seeing depreciated ownership on Jock. I don't know why, 4,700. And I know the pinch hit risk that exists if they bring a lefty in, but the wind's blowing out to right, almost 15 miles an hour. It's 7-12 sustained in Pittsburgh, blowing out to right field. Again, these lefties, Luis Gonzalez, Yastrzemski, and Jock Peterson, I'm going to have a lot of. I think we should all have a lot of them today. Mm-hmm. You had Wilmer Flores batting third, fine getting him from the right side. Brandon Belt back in this line, it makes it much more dangerous. You even get La Stella there, another lefty completely unowned at 3,800. Against Mitch Keller, he's just not good. And I think we can kind of understand that he does suppress power from time to time, just a 34.1% hard hit percentage, but a 453 expected slugging, a contact guy, only an 18.8% strikeout rate, and the wind blowing out to right field. I just don't know if people are paying that much attention to it. It's Sunday. Yeah, everybody's got Father's Day things that they're doing today. Whatever, except that San Francisco is being gifted to you with positive leverage as the top stack on the board and just play tons of them. That's
a great way to put it. Put your head down, take it, and don't ask any questions. All right, we'll move to Boston here. Reminder.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, Cal Mitchell, even Sawinski. I like these guys because if Alex Cobb is in any way, shape, or form, not the guy that we saw last season, which to this point is possible. He's had some really bad results. I'm okay taking some shots on Alex Cobb here. Again, this is just kind of wonky what we're looking at from him. He's still going to miss bats. He still induces quite a few ground balls, but this is a guy who was back and forth during the middle run. I mean, obviously he had a date in Coors that'll screw somebody up. The Mets offense, Cincinnati in Cincinnati. This is definitely an unimposing offense, but I'm still going to find shares of Pittsburgh, specifically Brian Hayes, and Brian Reynolds, major league hitters, those two.
Look, and I want to make sure that you clean that up for sure, because you alluded to that in the beginning. So absolutely get your specifics. Yep. All right, we'll move to Boston here. But before that, we have to remind the world a couple of things. Hit the thumbs up button. You're hanging with us, over 550 in the house. So we appreciate you. All we ask in return is that you hit that thumbs up button. You're subscribed here. New name. Everything else is the same here at Stochastic, right, Eric? So nobody looking around like, where is everything? Nothing has changed except the name, including this awesome deal that we have. And I know you've been paying attention to this because you have been paying attention to your own personal tally. And I think that you purposely ignored me doing this read last week because you have your own tally when you're hosting the show, and you didn't want to give props to this tally since you're not hosting the show.
Yeah, no, that's what it was. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Here's what it is. We're giving out, again, nothing has changed with anything else. All right. Half off, 50% off your first week of Stochastic Plus Platinum. All right. All you need to do upon checkout is use our promo code MLB Live. It's the name of this show, all caps, all one word. Again, a lot of people, I get it because you're hanging around and you're waiting for deals. Why wouldn't you? This is just the norm. This is a human element of it. This is the deal. This is the one that you've been waiting for. This is the one where your buddies are already part of what's happening here at Stochastic Plus, hanging out, and you're just like, no. I'll do my 1 day a week, hope that I can get the top stacks tool free on Thursday, but let me get that half off deal. Bang. This is the one. So there's just no more reason to sit on the bench anymore. MLB Live.
Sean V. Alex did not leave. Alex is here. Alex has the Stochastic name next to himself. Like, stop it. Stochastic.
Stochastic, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes.
It's okay. I love you. But
thanks for jumping in.
But
yes.
Stokastic is fantastic. And Alex Baker is still a part of everything that we're doing here. Just passing the torch on in terms of name, in terms of the company. Yes. So Alex has gone nowhere. Sean V, shocked that it would be him that would come in with the bad information. That is shocking to me.
Well, look, I mean, I get the name wrong. So maybe Sean V's thinking that he's on the wrong site. Could that be it?
Sean V doesn't even know where he is this morning.
All right. Well, let's go to Boston.
Sean V.
St. Louis, Boston. All right. Red Sox, Nick Pivetta. There's the option right there. On the flip side, it's going to be a super low cost. Hold your breath. You're going to get some leverage, but nobody's going with it. So there is a Pivetta. Let's start there. Only because of where the leverage is for Pivetta and the matchup alone, nobody is really getting to Pivetta, despite him really being high in our top stacks tool.
Yeah, top pitchers tool.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Nick Pivetta, 15.9%. You're okay. Yeah, massive amount of leverage here. If you're playing a single entry today, I still think you want to just play the Bassett or the Severinos, the Alcantara's. Like, I still think that that's kind of the path that I would take. But in 150, being overweight to Pivetta, Alex Cobb, I still can't really get behind. 8,500, I get it. If he's fine to just go out and pitch a normal allotment of pitches against the Pirates, maybe you can go there. I'm not. I'm looking much more at getting to some Pivetta against St. Louis, and they are markedly better against lefties. So I'm just finding ways to get to a lot of Pivetta, even in like a 20 max scenario. He's just a guy that you want to be prioritizing when he's so unowned in a spot like this. The Ks can still be there for him. 24% K percentage. He can definitely give up some hard contact. And I'm going to have some of these lefties, Brendan Donovan, but not having Nolan Gorman in the lineup is definitely an upgrade in terms of his profile, where he's not going to be giving up necessarily all of that 44% hard hit percentage and having it hurt him. You get guys like Ivan Herrera. That's random that he's in that lineup, but there you go. We're going to just roster a lot of Pivetta today.
Hey, and when you look at the other side of it, at the actual stacks tool, it's not like St. Louis is running away with anything. I mean, they're smack in the middle of a true middle of an 8-game top stack percentage, and there isn't a ton of positive score that would indicate that there is even that much risk associated with the low ownership of Pivetta. Does that make sense? Like, it's not like on the flip side, you could counter that and say, well, yeah, the 3.9 projected ownership we have for Pivetta. Look, St. Louis has got a 10.8% top stack tool. They're right below San Francisco. That's not the case. St. Louis is right there in the middle. So it furthers almost like people are overlooking Pivetta in this game.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a potent offense. You get some real major league hitters that you're facing on the other side. So I get it. But those are the times you want to embrace some of the risk here. So yeah, it's very, very risky going up against Tommy Edman, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Tyler O'Neill starting to hit again, a massive amount of power in that bat. So I'm with you. But I think that this is a team that St. Louis that is going to be, people are going to be gun shy going up against them. But that's where you can kind of get both sides of it. I'm probably not going to be getting to lots of St. Louis here, but a couple shares. Primarily Pivetta for me. He's just got enough K percentage there, enough in the tank where I think he can survive. He's pitching the right-handedness, being a righty as opposed to a lefty against St. Louis is definitely a plus. But there's enough there, and there's nobody who wants to click on that name today for understandable reasons. So we want to be the people who embrace that variance.
Real quick, before we just end on Boston and talk about that stack, wouldn't the inherent risk be built into our top stack percentage? Meaning, what you laid out with that lineup that Pivetta is going up against with the Cardinals is undeniable. Like, that's fact. Isn't that built in to a 6.5% top stack tool today against Pivetta, who we've been talking about? Like, if it were a bigger risk to go to Pivetta, could you not make the argument if St. Louis were at 10.8 or 11.1? Like, is it, and I'm asking, I'm not leading, I'm asking, isn't that built into our projections? So wouldn't that limit, not to take away, I don't want to say that there's zero, but wouldn't it limit the risk that St. Louis's top stack percentage is only in the middle of this pack?
Yeah, for me, it has to do more with what the ownership share is coming in on them. St. Louis, it's not like they're completely unowned. I mean, 8.8% ownership share So you're looking at the ownership. That's really what matters. What matters to us building lineups is having leverage and finding opportunities against guys that are in favorable environments compared to what the field is. Like, that's why I'm higher on San Francisco, because I feel like they're underappreciated for the kind of spot you are in against Mitch Keller. Now, there's paths where Pivetta gets murdered here, but I think Nolan Gorman not being in the lineup, definitely a plus. Getting Albert Pujols as a DH, less enthusiastic, should I say, about getting to some St. Louis sides. It's also pretty cold and muggy. I know the U.S. Open's being played in Boston as well. It's like, 60 degrees and windy.
Yeah,
in
rained
Fenway.
last night too.
Wind blowing in. This is a favorable pitching environment. And for Pivetta, it just stands out for me where if St. Louis, if people are just not looking at the factors that go into that ownership, I'm happy to hit eject. It's pretty much Brendan Donovan, Paul Goldschmidt are the only guys that are getting crazy ownership. Tyler O'Neill's too cheap, no question, 3,500, but I'm worried about what their ownership share is compared to their chances of succeeding. I just think the game environment's enough where I'm decreasing these guys quite a bit based on what I'm seeing from it, rather than even what I think the raw projections are showing.
Before we move to Toronto, what are you doing in that, as you mentioned, if it's the elements, if it's the park, not necessarily favorable to Boston, although the matchup's pretty favorable overall?
Yeah, I mean, Andre Palante, he's a guy that pitched 4 days ago, so I don't really know what to expect for him coming in on this spot against Boston. Not a bullpen to really go out of your way to target here, but yeah, he pitched on the 15th, so I doubt he's going to go too far. He pitched 78 pitches on the 10th, but yeah, 4 days ago is a pretty short rest for a guy who's been a bullpen guy. They started stretching him out. Boston's just a team you can play pretty much all the time when they're not going to be super chalk. And that's kind of what you're looking at here. They're a little bit too overowned, but there's guys that you can pick and choose out of this lineup that are going to get less ownership. I mean, Xander Bogaerts not exactly super popular, and he can go out and win you that position. Ref Snyder, I'm probably going to get away from. You can get some Verdugo, pretty unowned, batting fifth. There's some paths to get to some guys, but Boston overowned. Yep. I talked about it. I can't like the game environment less than what I do compared to what it should be on June 19th in Boston.
All right, let's talk about another game environment here, and that's Toronto and your guy Kikuchi going up against Severino. So I know that there's going to be some love here whenever we have Eric Lindquist and Kikuchi on the same slate.
Oh my God.
I don't want to bury the lead. I mean, Severino.
I hate the man.
Projected to be better
hate him more.
and everything, but I don't want to bury the lead. Go ahead, man. Project your love out there. Profess it.
I mean, how many times do I have to say play Yankees against everybody? Sean V, I'm surprised you wanted to show your face in the chat after your disrespectful stuff that you said.
Well, he's only really showing a name, not a face. That would be much different. We'd have a lot less.
You play the Yankees. You play the Yankees against everybody. They're unowned again. Well, not unowned. They're 9.6% ownership share, but there's positive leverage. That should never be the case for the Yankees, especially against some gas can. And yeah, I said gas can, like Kikuchi is. This guy is just so overrated. And if people just embraced him as like a piece that can get strikeouts, which is what he is, 24.7% K percentage. Generally, I like these guys in DFS, but he gives up so much hard contact, 48.6% hard hit percentage, 553 expected slugging. And I don't know if anybody's aware, but there's some sluggers wearing pinstripes. So we're probably going to be rostering them today. If you made me make one lineup to rule them all today, if you made me make one lineup, I'm stacking the Yankees, and there's really no question about it.
All right. So is there any flip on that at all? Knowing that, look, I mean, are you going to get to Kikuchi only because it's not even like nobody's getting to him. There is a single digit, but still there is some at 4.6%. So you're building a $150. Are you capped at 0.0?
I will not be playing Yusei Kikuchi. I will be playing 0% of him. In 290 lineups, I have him in 0.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. You've made this point over and over again, and it's
like cool. He's striking guys out, but if you like giving up 14 earned runs here in this spot, the new major league record, enjoy, because Kikuchi is just so overrated, and the field's starting to understand that. Obviously, he's unowned in this spot because it's the Yankees here, but I mean, the guy isn't even pitching long into games anymore. He keeps getting the quick hook because he just gives up bombs. 5 home runs now in his last 3. I could not possibly like him less. No. If you want to go to one thing, the Sean V thing, his best outing of the year against the Yankees at home last, let's see, it was May 4th, but Kikuchi is just not in play for me.
No, that's fine. And look, on the flip side, really, this is about how much you're getting to Toronto against Severino and that matchup.
I love Severino here. And Toronto, I feel like people want to shy away here again. And if you're looking at the top pitchers tool, it is pretty apparent that we have been in love with Severino before everybody else. And the pitch count ramped up, and all of a sudden you're looking at probably my favorite starting pitcher in the AL. The Yankees are an absolute juggernaut, and you just play their starters, you play their bats every single slate. It feels too easy to be true, but it has really kind of been like that this season. Don't get in the habit of getting away from them, even when they're chalky, because there's ways that you can get power 1 through 9. I mean, Gallo's been batting 9th and has been unowned compared to what he should have been for the last, I don't know how long, weeks and weeks and weeks. Matt Carpenter, when he shows up in the lineup on other days, just an absolute massive bat to be getting in this lineup. They got him for free, didn't have to do anything. I know we have Chris Karen producing here today, but yes, you, Terry, everybody here that are Yankees fans, you guys are just embarrassingly lucky. So yeah, Luis Severino against Toronto. We're just going to play him. 28.9% K percentage. There are enough strikeouts, I think, just having Teoscar Hernandez, Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, George Springer around 21%, which is a little bit higher. I'm all right getting to as much Severino as you want to play today, because I just don't think people roster him enough, or probably on this slate because of the matchup. Yep. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Alcantara get steamed up. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bassett have outrageous, and I do mean like 55% outrageous ownership. We'll get to that in a second, but Severino, my favorite tournament pitcher on the board.
Yeah, so any team that's doing significantly better than yours is lucky. Just want to clarify that. Like if the Minnesota Twins had won as many games over a stretch that the Philadelphia Phillies had, would you call them lucky?
The Minnesota Twins the New York Yankees own the Minnesota Twins soul. I've been to so many, I fly home for postseason games and all I see is sadness. Like that's all I experience.
Well, it's the cold too. That does a lot for the sadness. Nobody's happy in Minnesota. How can you be? It's 9 months a year darkness.
That's dark. It's mean.
Well, it is.
Happy Father's Day, Eytan.
Thank you. Oh, it's been great so far. You know, get to wake up and do the same thing I've been doing for the last year. My son's about to.
You get to hang out with me.
Well, yeah, that's new. This is a new wrinkle in my day over the last couple of months. So this adds excitement, definitely, to my day.
Equally as vomit-inducing.
Yeah, but you smell better because I'm not next to you. So
that's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, volume and everything else.
I'm not calling him daddy, Chris. I'm not doing it.
No, that's fine. We could move on. Cincinnati. All right. Great American Ballpark. Let's take full advantage of this. But we'll look at it at least from a pitching matchup. And I just don't know how much at all you're working in the Hauser and Minor scenario because of the matchup here and also the ballpark itself that just lends itself to a higher scoring game that we have. I mean, Hauser is somewhat there at 6,800, so maybe that price is a little bit of a deterrent. Minor, you're just throwing that in there at 58, although he does have a decent projection for his cost. Both of them do.
Yeah.
But everybody's getting the Minor because it's so cheap.
It's going to be an uncomfortable fade again today. And I mean, he got everything you could have possibly wanted against Arizona. That's what you're going for by rostering Mike Minor. I get it. I do. But his chances of putting up a score that you need today are just so low compared to other pitchers on the board. He just feels like an easy hit eject. And we only have 3 starts, 2 of them against Arizona here. And Milwaukee, this is the most competent offense that he's faced in those 3 starts, Washington being the other team. He's fully stretched out now, 98 pitches last time out. So that's not a concern anymore. There's really no question that he's too cheap, but I'm looking at the ballpark. Milwaukee's going to be popular on the other side. I just feel like this is a game where I'm just going to be lower on everything and hope nothing really comes back to bite me. It's just too much ownership going to Minor, too much ownership going to Milwaukee. If anything, I'm going to be going to a little bit of Cincinnati against Adrian Hauser, but even that isn't all that appealing. Probably one of the most unappealing spots to go to Great American Ballpark I can remember all year long.
All right, so what about ways in which we can kind of cut the leverage in half with Milwaukee and still take advantage of what you were talking about with Cincinnati, because this doesn't have to be 5 stack or nothing. So do you start to sub-stack? Do you start to break this down to, 2-3-man stacks that you can take advantage of to cut a little bit of leverage if possible with the Milwaukee higher owned stack and still not fully neglect Cincinnati to be like, a 5-4 nothing scenario? It's still Great American Ballpark. It's still,
I know it is.
Right. So I don't want to neglect it. Maybe you do, and I'll defer to you, but it's hard. It's hard to neglect.
If you're playing cash, you're playing Hunter Renfroe. He's 3,500 batting fourth, batting cleanup here. I don't know what to say. Everybody's super cheap. They're undervalued for the game environment, for the ballpark. It's just a difficult fade, but you kind of have to do it. Everybody, all the way down to Tyrone Taylor pulling nearly 10% ownership on DK. I get it. It's a lineup that in cash games really stands out, but in baseball, 8-game slate, we have 16 teams on the board, and this is one that's just coming in drastically over-owned again. We're looking at the 16% average ownership share across all these batters, a stack score that's 11.3, and it stands out, but they don't even have the highest top stack odds. So I'm going to play the Yankees, I'm going to play San Francisco, and I'm going to kind of hit eject here. This is the team that most people are going to be stacking up these stud pitchers with, so be very aware of that. They just provide so much value top to bottom. You have pretty much only Yelich and Adames that you have to be paying for in any way, shape, or form. Anybody outside of those two makes it pretty easy to put together, but I'm just hitting eject almost entirely here. I'm less than half the field on every single batter, 1 through 9.
Yeah, I imagine, single pitcher slate like FanDuel, you're not getting to either one of these guys.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
Mike Minor's just an Adrian Hauser.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense today. So, or rostering Adrian Hauser on a 2-game slate.
Exactly.
Don't even want to do that most of the time.
And I just want to clarify for the folks for out there and let people know that nothing changes at all. Like there's no small little angle that somebody combed over. All right. So you mentioned what's going on with the Marlins and that as far as everything coming in the background. So Mets Marlins, lower projection that we have for team totals in this game. And if it's the pitching matchup, if it's just where we are right now, looking around, let's start on the mound first. Let's start there because both of these guys are guys we've mentioned in comparison to the rest of the slate. And both of these guys are super high owned, including Bassett, who over half of the field is getting to on DK.
I get it, but how many times have I had to say this? I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. Miami is so much better against right-handed pitching than what people think they are. It's just remarkable. Over a 110 WRC plus against that handedness for the season. We have power, they have speed, they have guys up and down the lineup that are just improved. And I get it. They have the lowest implied total on the board. So it feels pretty safe. You also, John Birdie batting second is just an absurd thing that he's been as good as what he's been in the early going of this season, but just stealing bases at an absurd, and I do mean absurd clip. Do you know 6 stolen bases in his last 3 games? That is the stuff of legend. So John Birdie just doing ridiculous stuff with his wheels, stuff you don't really see in baseball anymore. So at least shout out to him there. 3K flat going up against them. I think I'm going to get to some shares of him just because he's just continuing to do this. But Miami, they are an unappealing offense, but this is just way too much ownership. And sometimes you might want to jam with better pitchers than Chris Bassett, but it's just going to be a spot where I'm holding my nose, less than half the field again. It sounds like I'm being very, very negative here in the last 2 spots. I understand the ownership, but just a 25.5% K percentage. I think that there's ways to be getting away from that at this kind of chalk.
So are you just capping because you're not clearly?
Yeah, I am. So
where are you? Do you know with both guys? And I'm just going to ballpark it with you, right? We have Bassett. I mean, it's 52.8, 27.4 respectively between these 2 pitchers. So I assume that you're going to be more capped to the higher ownership.
Yeah. So, I mean, I capped him at 30. I mean, normally I'd go through a process where I'm able to kind of filter it out when I'm not on a show, but I'm just not going to get over 30% of them. Yeah. And I doubt I even get to 30. You can kind of dip his projection a little bit based on some ownership factors. And he's he's massively overowned, even though he's the guy who's the most likely to finish as a top 2 pitcher. So I get it both ways. For me, I just play baseball where I don't want to be playing guys that are this popular. When I see paths to other upside arms, sometimes you get a guy like Justin Verlander, or you get a guy with crazy K percentage and like a Corbin Burns, where I'll jam even when they're overowned at these kind of spots. But Chris Bassett at 8,900 as mega chalk against Miami team that's much better against righties than people give them respect for. That's not the time that I'm going to be doing that.
So the other side of it here is the Mets Marlins right there at the bottom where we have projected. By the way, Birdie, is there a better cross sport last name in sports than a baseball player named Birdie? Right? Like, you'd have to think about that. This is not just an easy one. This is a 1.5 step question here. This is not just the regular drivel that we just put out on the Sunday show here, right? Like, I'm actually asking you to think on this, Lindquist.
Okay.
Is there a better...
Wouldn't his name be more apt for golf?
That's what I'm saying. A baseball player with the last name Birdie. It's a cross sport name.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The insight that I was looking for today. This is what I needed.
Well, you're here to break down what Birdie can do. I'm here to connect Birdie to a bigger picture.
He's fast. Well, are you saying, Eytan, you're not one for conspiracies?
What's the conspiracy here? I just asked the question. Yes, I am one for conspiracies. Are you kidding me? I'll push every single conspiracy there is. All right. So even if I know it's because I want to push so many that you don't know which one is real. All right, let's look at on the other side of this here. Both of these are super low stacked right there at the bottom. Although, as mentioned, you do kind of have that bottom tier, that 3 or 4 team tier that's kind of just right there below that 3%. But you're taking a risk from what we have as far as the projection is concerned. But if this game were to blow up and either one of these teams were put up a bunch of runs, you'd look pretty good against the field here.
I don't even know what we're talking about. Carlos Manzo's dead on. I had no idea what you were saying. I was so distracted trying to get your logic of John Birdie that came from.
Yeah.
But I love you, Dad.
Coco Crisp, right? So
Coco
Randy
Crisp
Birdie Johnson. See, people are doing it right away.
See, that's what we.
You're the only one who didn't.
That's what we need. EMAC.
EMAC's a
right.
translator.
EMAC can be my daddy now. Team
Are you
Eric.
looking for one?
Yeah, I was gonna say I had no idea what you're talking about. I love
Well,
you.
yeah, that's fine. Look, Ryan Hayes, open your ears. He's giving you the Frank Rizzo treatment. All right, open your ears. Come on, what's going on here? Langford,
all we need is your internet to
too.
catch up.
This is beautiful.
We're almost there. We've almost done it. We have succeeded so far. You can hear what I'm
Everybody's coming
saying.
at you now.
You can tell that.
You try to go after
Yeah,
a very
we're almost
simple
there.
question. You got ratioed on here because your internet. It's ridiculous. See, people were
Whatever.
just waiting.
Yeah. I'm crunching the lineups. I think that's the other major problem.
Yes, you're
going on
distracted.
right now.
No, I asked you a very simple question about the Mets Marlins stacks and how low we have them projected, how little owned they are as well, and how smart you would look if either or both of these teams are able to put up some runs.
It's an atrocious lineup. Like, I'm not going crazy. I mean, you can play Jazz Chisholm. I'm going to play him for pure leverage. John Birdie, Avisal Garcia, those 3 guys specifically, 1, 2, 3, happy to play them. I don't know how you really land on anything else in this lineup. You're just basically holding your nose and hoping that you have other pitchers that can outperform Chris Bassett, but we're talking 55% ownership. That's just a spot where you hit eject. I don't care any kind of scenario with Chris Bassett where you think that he's some auto pitcher where he's going to trash every single time. He's not. It's just, he's not a 35% K percentage guy. He's not an elite pitcher in terms of everything else. This is a great spot in terms of what this lineup looks like today, but don't go chasing waterfalls. Like, just stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. And for me, that's just playing leverage. How about that?
Yeah, I think you have to end the show on that.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but we have we have 18 minutes left and 2 games left. So you either have to drop that in like the first third of the show, or you have to mic drop that when we get out of here.
I might drop it unintentionally if my internet just cuts out.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
So,
and yes,
yeah.
we all got the reference. We all got the analogy. We all understood what you said.
Stupid, sexy Eric. Thanks, Dano.
Well, Dano's there for you. All right. All right, let's move then, as we've covered this as much as you possibly can. The shitty lineup and the unappealing approach to the stack. So final 2 games for us. And again, if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button. I have to tell you about, we blew through this because Link was derailed, but we have to tell you it's up there right above his head. So every place we go to build a bet, every place we go, if it's a parlay, if it's a single play, anything that we're doing, it's through OddShopper. We tell you that for a reason, because that's where we're going. That's where we're pulling everything. It's free now to sign in. And when you do, you'll get access to everything. Alex's free projections on site. And on top of that, you could run different ways to bet. So you can go from just looking at everything that Alex has as far as projections are concerned, or you can match it up to what Pinnacle's doing, the sharp book on the planet, and see wherever the hold/angle is on a play. So we've expanded. I mean, we're expanding this thing left and right. I know you're all over that, especially building your prize picks plays. So we are continuing to expand everything here with OddShopper.
Yeah, it's just the best. OddShopper makes it so easy to be able to research and like instantaneously be able to play the best plays on the board almost every single day. It has been profitable for me in the long term, I know, on prize picks. It just using all of the data we have for expected win percentage rather than expected ROI comes in a lot of handy. Researching all the total home runs, I think there's a massive advantage to playing on prize picks doing that right now. Yeah. Hopefully my videos that you guys see Monday through Friday have been highlighting some of those inefficiencies, and we can all take advantage of them. Again, total home runs, the fact that you can get Aaron Judge against Yusei Kikuchi is just unfathomable. Plus you get DJ LeMahieu and Stanton in the package. Like, give me all of that you got today. Pair that with some of the other great plays that we have on the board. Just get a log into OddShopper. Spend some time over there because it's an absolute smash.
Yeah. Look, I know you're logging in. Come on, another site. I got to look at. No. This is free. And you're going to get an email. You're going to get the OddShopper play of the day. You're going to get notified. Ben Ross's sharp play of the day. Lindquist telling you about these prize picks, loopholes that he's found here. Cash it in, ticket lift after right. We've got a ton of stuff happening here. That's the point. So it's free, and you get all those projections. Once you log in, sign up for free, you're going to get all that. All right. Final 2 games here as we shift now to Detroit, Texas. It's Dunning and Hutchinson. So Dunning's going to be I think if you were looking at this, let's start there, see what you're doing at all, because Hutchinson's is going to be more like a write-off, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Detroit with their 65 WRC plus against righties. Yeah, like we're going to roster Dane Dunning still.
A lot of the field
unavoidable piece for me. Yeah, so I mean, if I'm going to be lower on Bassett, it gives me opportunity to get to a lot of their pieces. If I'm going to be lower on Mike Minor, gives me opportunities to get to some of these other pieces as well. There's really nobody else that's garnering so much attention that we can't go their direction. Dane Dunning, he's close to Mike Minor in terms of negative leverage, but man, do I strongly prefer him. I know it's $2,000 more. You got to be paying the freight for it to get there, but Dane Dunning stands out so much more for me than Mike Minor on this slate. It's not even funny.
Yeah, no. And look, I get it. So is there just nothing at all to get to here when you're looking at the other side of this, just with Drew Hutchinson, just forget everything about this?
Yeah, it's Drew Hutchinson. You're not playing him.
Yeah,
You're just not. It's going to be a glorified bullpen spot. I don't really want to be going nuts on the other side of this. It's pretty much going to be a complete write-off on this entire game outside of Dunning.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense. So there's nothing, outside of Dunning, but you are getting to the Rangers, aren't you?
Not really.
Okay. A lot. I mean, look, people are, they're a pretty high projected stack here for us.
Negative leverage, Texas. You know the batters
want to play. Not a ton of negative leverage, though.
Not a ton, but again, there are just so many other spots that I would rather go. Rather than target a Detroit bullpen that's better than people expected them to be coming into this season. mid 60s pitch count, probably for Drew Hutchinson is the cap of what you're looking at. Got extended to 62 pitches on the 14th. So we're starting to get him stretched out in a spot where we can maybe start considering him at 5K against a bad team, but I'm not going to. He's not a good enough pitcher. I've already kind of talked about my approach, getting away from some of these bottom end guys, getting up to the top of Severino, Pivetta for positive leverage, getting to them, incorporating Dane Dunning. I have no room for trying to attack any kind of a bullpen spot here with a Rangers team that outside of, the known quantities, the known guys, which should just be obvious that Corey Seager is a high upside play. Avisel Garcia, Cole Calhoun, fine getting there as well. But Marcus Semien, probably the most disappointing player in the entire league this season, compared relative to expectations. A hard hit is just atrocious. Just not a team that I'm going to be getting to that much.
Freudian slip is stacking Detroit. Now, is that a true slip?
No, that is not intentional. Let me just say that. I don't know. We've been looking at 90-degree game environments in Detroit for the last 3 or 4 slates, and you were able to mine out some stuff there. It's down to 73 degrees there in Detroit today. That is markedly different, especially against a bullpen here. I just don't really want to be targeting a bad Tigers lineup going up against Dane Dunning, who I've always projected a lot higher than I think the field has. And then Texas on the other side, just you have the known quantities and that's it. I don't really find this entire game that appealing.
How appealing is our last game here? We're in Chicago and you've got Ian Anderson on the mound. Definitely a decent option when it comes to cost, reflective of the rest of the slate by all means at 8,300, workable there. And look, Kyle Hendricks is going to be at the bottom for a reason. That spend down option here. But if you're just starting off with Anderson and neglecting Hendricks as much as possible, he's getting some run, he's getting some ownership, and we have him in a decent projection here to be a top 2 pitcher. So certainly not one to be ignored by any means.
Yeah, he's not going to be ignored. 13.7% top 2 pitcher percentage, slight positive leverage. I just don't find him to be as appealing as taking some shots on other guys. He's just around a 19% K percentage. The Cubs against right-handed pitching are dead middle of the road in baseball in terms of striking out. Not nearly as good as what you'd seen in years past. What is nice is that you do get Hayward, VR, Morel, and Wisdom in the lineup there. Those are all guys with higher K percentages than your normal Cubs lineup here. Just having all of them together. Alfonso Rivas was the main guy that I wanted to highlight who's in this lineup today, 32.1% K percentage. That's different than the other guys coming along for the ride. So I think it's all right to be falling into shares of him, but I'm not enthusiastically going to just go like double the field or something on the 10% number. I think he's about appropriately owned, and I'm going to have about that much of him.
Okay. And as far as Hendricks, you're not full on ignoring him either?
Oh, God. No, I haven't played Kyle Hendricks since 1948.
You made it sound initially like maybe I was off by suggesting that you weren't even looking at him.
I would never. Kyle Hendricks, let me see.
0.0.
I would roster him. So, I mean, I'm just saying I would roster him over Hutchinson. I would not roster him over Palante or Minor. I would not roster him over Hauser. He's the least appealing pitcher to me outside of Drew Hutchinson on the entire slate.
Okay. Is there anything else in this game specific? Because, and look, the chat brings it up. We should hit this last game too. That's been added to the FanDuel slate out in Coors, especially because that is a factor that
kind of matters.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we're not ignoring by any means. We appreciate you bringing that up, chat, and we're going to respond. And again, the least you can do for us is just hit the thumbs up button and subscribe here for Lindquist at the very least. But anything else, because for the most part, I don't want to gloss over something where you're like, whoa, one more thing, even though you already brought it up. Now, as far as the stack element of it, Atlanta, I mean, we should at least dive a little deeper into that, taking on Hendricks. My goodness.
Yeah, he's a gas can, absolute gas can at this point, and you're going to be rostering Atlanta everywhere. You have power everywhere outside of Phil Gosselin, who's going to be popular today just by default. If you just go into Cruncher and you run everything without, I like to run Cruncher to start off my process at 0 randomness and see what some of the more popular one-offs end up in lineups. And then I'll increase the randomness, do like the the regular 125% or whatever it is that you're doing for like the pro distribution. I'll kind of mix it up that way and then kind of mix and match some hitters according to what I'm seeing. But Phil Gosselin's a guy that will actually show up in lineups. So just be on the lookout that's a thing that will happen if you're not embracing the randomness, or if you're not capping him, doing something to just get him out of lineups, because at a flat 2K, that's just going to naturally happen. But Atlanta 1 through 9, outside of Gosselin with the crazy ownership that I expect going his direction for people who are crunching out lineups, I'm going to be getting to lots of them. Probably my favorite guy in terms of just a one-off in this lineup. You get a 3K Adam Duvall, and he had a atrocious, terrible, no good, very bad beginning to the season. And we're starting to see that form that got him the contract that has really started to show up here. Not your everyday 7-hole hitter at 3K. So Adam Duvall, highlight star, play more of him in the field.
Cubs are going to be a little bit of an opportunity, especially if you look at them as a sub stack, just to counter a decent percentage of Ian Anderson.
I'm not going to be doing it with the Cubs.
Not at all.
Yeah, not really. I mean, Wrigley Field.
Not at all versus not really. There's a difference.
I have like 2% Cubs. So there you go. I don't really know what to say. Ian Anderson's a really good real life pitcher. The hard hit can get up from time to time, 42% that he's got for the season, but still modifies a 394 expected slugging. It's not a guy that I'm going out of my way to pick on. The one thing he will do from time to time is walk a ton of batters. He's got nearly an 11% walk rate on the season. That's definitely stack viable, but it's just not in a lineup outside of the usuals. You can always roster Wilson Contreras, a guy who in the top batters tool, which Sean Zine's done an amazing job with here at Stokastic. You can see the Wilson Contreras every single slate, massive home run odds, and somebody that I roster over the field just about every time. Even today, I'm not going that nuts with him.
All right, let's look at the final game on the FanDuel slate here. We'll add this in Coors. And as you can imagine, if it's Senzatella or Snell, both of these guys are going to be projected to be close to the bottom of being that top 1% pitcher, but doesn't mean that you're writing them off entirely. Maybe Senzatella, but not Snell, I would think entirely, but it's just a matter of how much risk you want with either one of these guys at Coors.
I do not want to roster pitch Coors Field. I mean, Blake Snell 7,700 for the FanDuel slate.
Is that too much based on the location?
He's giving up more contact, and we all know the even really, really good pitchers go into Coors Field and die. I don't think he's really that necessary. If you got a couple shares in 150, fine. It's Blake Snell. The K percentage is still there for him, but giving up so much hard hit, it is not a very advantageous spot to be looking at pitchers. And if you roster any Antonio Senzatella, you've made a grave mistake.
By the way, speaking of grave mistake, we forgot to set over-under odds at the beginning of the show of when the first sex spot infiltration would be on the show. And shame on us.
It happened earlier. I was on that.
Oh, it did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I missed it. This is the second time around. Chris nailed it the first time. Chris is so swift at it. I didn't even notice it.
I mean, I can't even say this one. Again, if anybody can name the first sentence of the sex bot at some point, you get an opportunity. You get an opportunity to get a free year of Stochastic Plus. I'm just saying, if you can predict that first sentence coming in right off the gate. I can't remember what it was before, but didn't get any guesses again. So sad.
No, somebody hit it. I think Emac hit it last time. What are you talking about? Remember? Or
That's
Jordan.
Right.
It was either
Emac,
Jordan or Emac hit it.
Dirty, filthy person.
I'm telling you, next week we've got a bunch of new wrinkles on the show, assuming we're back. Chris is now. You think this is a coincidence that Jordan is out and Chris is in on this show? All right, all the red flags have been flying up for weeks on this show. Finally, somebody's stepping in to clean this shit up.
Oh man, we're having fun.
All right, so you're not doing anything here from the pitching standpoint. Now it's all about how much you're attacking Coors. Go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah.
San Diego's right there at the top.
Obviously, this is all you have to do is worry about FanDuel for this slate. And if you want Coors exposure, this is the only place to get it. It's going to be extremely, extremely popular, but not popular enough. The San Diego side specifically garnering no attention against Blake Snell. And for those not paying attention, Blake Snell, he's been serviceable, but walking a ton of dudes again, around a 12% walk rate, giving up high, hard contact. And for Colorado on the other side, you can definitely get there a little bit more overowned. But why wouldn't you roster this team ad nauseum against Antonio Senzatella? 11.2% K percentage, a 7.3 implied total. We're talking just absurd, insane kind of stuff. You should roster tons and tons of Padres at their current ownership over on FanDuel.
Yeah, and same thing with Colorado here. I mean, they're also right there.
Colorado's going a little bit overowned, but I mean, Blake Snell can get those walks to come up. He's starting to limit some of the hard contact that was showing up earlier. 31.3% hard hit percentage, pretty serviceable. 417 expected slugging, very serviceable. 26.6% K percentage, down from where it was around a 30% number a couple starts ago, but he's starting to be more like the Blake Snell of old. I'm not going to go completely nuts with Colorado on the other side, but I definitely still think it's viable. He's a pitcher that I still find myself targeting more. And the tools are just showing flat out that Colorado's getting a little bit too much ownership, but they're still the second most likely top stack on the board for FanDuel purposes. CJ Cron just was going to start to hit, and he is, oh my God, is he hitting right now? 4,100. He's the bat you want to prefer from the Colorado side. I believe he's right around 22% ownership. That's fine. You're still going to be able to get to some of that. But get to some Grichuk, get to some McMahon, even left on left here. Blake Snell gives up power everywhere. Does not give up power everywhere. But against lefties, he still had some decent enough numbers against him that I'm okay getting to some of those guys that are going lesser owned. Probably not going to be playing an Elias Diaz for FanDuel purposes. Catcher, not really necessary there. Daza, not my favorite guy, but definitely has some utility in terms of the stack. Just not a guy that I want to be getting too much power with.
All right. And I think just to add this, it's far from a wrinkle. And no, that was not a shot at EMAC, by the way, on chat. It was just a phrase. It coincided, the two of them there. But this is a hell of a wrinkle by any means to add to a slate that we just went through entirely on DraftKings, only to find, the addition there of Coors by all means. Anything else you want to add here before we get out of here that you would like to
let's go. So
conversation?
Judge, Stanton, LeMahieu, Aaron Judge over 1.5 total bases, over 0.5 home runs for prize picks purposes is just such a smash. And I want to double check this because this was something that was available earlier. Pitching outs. Where is Sandy Alcantara? 18.5 for Sandy Alcantara, 18.5 pitching outs is absurd. I'm smashing that right now as we speak. That is way too low. I want the over of 18.5 even against the Mets. The guy has just been a workhorse here of late. I don't think people understand how good he's been from a real life perspective. He has now gone over 7 innings pitched in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starts. 18.5 is just a gift from the gods. So take the over on 18.5 and join me with that home run party. So if you guys want to check out Prize Picks, use promo code Osmo, still available to you. $100 first match deposit bonus. You'll also get a month of Stokastic Plus, just completely free to use. So take advantage of that. But that is the parlay of the day for me.
Yeah, I mean, you can theoretically sign up at Prize Picks and get a month free here, and then also take advantage of our MLB Live code and get 50% off once that month ends. So, I mean, you could stack up here, to use a phrase that everybody's familiar with by all means. I did 2 things real quick before we get out of here.
Do it.
I put together, look, I got the Braves and the Rays, winning. So
I love the Raves.
Look, that's a fantastic combination whenever you get the two of them in. So I pushed both up, especially because I got a really good number I liked on the return, but I have both Tampa and Atlanta laying 3 individually on the alternate run line. So this is an explosion scenario, and I want to take advantage of it. All right.
I love it, my friend.
All right. At Eric Lindquist.
All right.
On Twitter, at Shander Show for me. Hit the thumbs up button, please, on your way out if you haven't already. And we appreciate you all hanging with us. Hopefully you had some fun. We always do. Thanks to Chris for stepping in for producing. We'll see you all next weekend, but don't go anywhere throughout the week, because more content. See ya.